Kyle here with Factum Financial, and in this new video, I'm going to be sharing with you all of my past experience, the last 11 years implementing the infinite banking concept, and kind of just my story and take on the concept so far this many years in. So let's jump right into this. One of the ideas that I want to start with is just that this idea of creating abundance in your life in all areas has been so compelling for us here at Fact that we literally built our entire community profile off this one idea. And the idea is this. If you want to wake up and enjoy every second of every day, you have to create abundance in all areas of life. And with the spiritual component being the most important. So what's your mission and purpose in this life? I absolutely believe that we're all here for a very specific reason. And you not only need abundance spiritually in your life, but personally, with your family, financial, and with your occupation. And I'm going to be going through just my thought process on the infinite banking concept as it relates to a financial strategy, and also doing this as an occupation, which I absolutely love educating people on this subject. So let's go back to the beginning. I was in a room full of millionaire dentists, orthodontists, and surgeons as a 25-year-old, and there was a gentleman, a very wealthy orthodontist here in Chandler, Arizona, that was teaching other dentists and surgeons and orthodontists basically all the things he had learned at 65 years old. And we've probably all seen this by now, but this is Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow quadrant, and basically you can be 4 players in the money game. Now this is what most of us have been brought up to believe, that there's only these 4 options in the money game. You can be an employee, which you have a job. You can be a self-employed individual, which means you own a job. You can be a business owner and you've got a system and people work for you, or you are an investor and money works for you 24/7. And I was sitting in this class, this after-hours workshop, and he was also talking about, what about the role of banker? You see, banking in our society fulfills such an important financial function, but yet we are never taught to look at this function in our lives. And this was so compelling to me because prior to that, I had already been investing very automatically. I didn't have an intentional investing strategy when I was 25. I do have one now. And so I was putting money into retirement programs that I did not understand and were not going to facilitate any type of real success with my life the way I wanted to live it, which is abundance in all areas. And if I want to live an abundant life in all areas, that requires income and it requires cash flow, not only right now, but also in the future. Had I known that 10 years ago, I don't think I would have funded a retirement program. And so fast forward to today, I'm learning from this orthodontist, when I was 25 years old. And he's talking to all these business owners and investors on, hey, you need to understand this role of banker and how it affects you and your employees for your business. Because the reality is the bankers have infiltrated and controlled a lot of the flow of money for every other player in the money game. And this concept of banking is so misunderstood in our financial society. And if Americans would take more time to study this role of banking and how it affects their life, it would change your money paradigm forever. And more importantly, it'll put way more control of your financial life back into your hands, which I'm all about. So here's what I had been commonly hearing about whole life insurance when I first started reading this book right here, Becoming Your Own Banker by Nelson Nash. Now, I got a hold of this book because that orthodontist referred it to me, and I literally read it in one night. I kept waking up my wife, Diane, saying, you're not going to believe what we can do with this. This is everything that we've been looking for financially. And at that time, I had a lot of people chirping in my ears. Kyle, you're looking into whole life insurance. It's a scam. Don't buy it. Terrible product. And here's really what they were telling me. Whole life is the worst investment of all time because it is very expensive to own and it has a very low rate of return. Now, fast forward 11 years. I'm now 36 years old. I've been doing infinite banking, owning whole life insurance for the past decade. And my experience is whole life insurance is absolutely 100% not an investment. It has nothing to do with investing. In fact, in this book, Becoming Your Own Banker, on the very front page, Nelson Nash tells you that. So I don't know where a lot of these misconceptions were coming from. Basically, just terrible education on the subject in the big wide world. So the biggest misconception I think people have when learning about this, and I struggled to teach this adequately over a decade ago, was that whole life insurance is not an investment and has nothing to do with investing. You'll never see the power of this asset or the concept of infinite banking if you can't stop thinking about it as an investment or investment grade vehicle, okay? Now, these 8 benefits on the screen right here have been the easiest way for me to articulate everything I'm getting by saving a lot of money in the form of premium inside a properly designed whole life insurance policy with a really good mutually owned carrier. One America or American United Life happens to be my preferred carrier of choice. Most of the insurance policies I own are with One America for a very specific reason. Now, commercial banks will give us benefits like liquidity, some safety, and maybe, depending on the environment, you might get some yield. But whole life insurance is the only asset that I have found in the last 10 years that will offer you all of the benefits that you're seeing on your screen. But most importantly, with a guaranteed contract that those benefits will always be there for you now until the day you pass away. And those benefits are constant compounding of your savings, so you never have to interrupt the growth of your savings ever again. Liquidity, most people are not aware that cash value in a life insurance contract is a very liquid piece of the puzzle that you can use for your wealth building game. It is a very private asset. There is an income tax-free transfer of wealth. We'd also call that the death benefit. Certain carriers will update your cash values every single month, which is very compelling. That helps with certain cash flow problems and unpredictable income. You can use this loan provision, something I've used many, many times in the last 10 years. It is the most flexible loan option you will ever find. There's no credit check. There's no repayment schedule. It is the easiest loan to come across, and it's why you have to couple this strategy of becoming your own banker with the right financial management habits, which is why we built our Tough Money Workbook. The role of banker and the concept of infinite banking will be so much more advantageous, and you'll be so much more successful if you have the right money disciplines going into that. And it's why Nelson Nash, in the first third of his book, has nothing to do with like strategies or illustrations. It's all on human behavior. He basically says if you cannot get your money management behaviors in place, you will never be successful, not only at infinite banking, but anything else financially. So these 8 benefits literally make what I would call whole life insurance the toughest asset you can ever own because of those benefits. Now, I want to give you an update on my old policy, because I had a lot of people 11 years ago saying, don't buy one of those, it's terrible, it's a garbage product, there's better stuff out there. And so here we are coming into almost my 13th year. Now, the nice thing about these contracts is because there are actual guarantees built into them, you can literally track this stuff with pinpoint accuracy. And One America, I believe, has some of the most conservative illustrations, meaning 10, 11, 12 years into this, they look identical to what they were projecting even over a decade ago. So in this 13th year, I will pay in or save $8,000 in the form of premium. That's going to be base premium and PUA. And my policy in that year will grow $13,000 with no risk, just for me depositing savings there in the form of premium. Or what that equals is every dollar I put into that policy will earn me $1.63 this year. I don't have any other savings environment, let alone any other investment in my financial world that I could put $1 in, and with that much ease, it'll spit out $1.63 next year. And so this has been such a phenomenal tool. It did everything that I was promised it would do, and it's only going to get better. What's crazy about this is the first 10, 11, 12 years are the worst years of the policy. So if I go another 15 years, and I think every American could win the money game, meaning your passive income would surpass monthly expenses, if we were taught the proper rules of the money game. So if we go another 15 years out, I think every American could retire themselves. I don't really like that word, but that's the idea. Retire themselves in a 5, 10, or 15-year time frame with the right wealth team and the right strategies. So in year 28, I'm going to pay in or save the same $8,000 into this policy. It's going to grow by $24,000 that year, or it's going to grow $3.10 for every dollar I put into that thing. If we go another 15 years, year 43 in this contract, I'll be in my mid-60s. This is the age when I met that orthodontist who was teaching me this. And it's also why he said I would give up anything, all of my wealth, to go back in time and be your age to start this over again, because it will make that big of a difference for you. So if you're watching this and you're kind of feeling like, oh, am I too old? The nice thing about this is as soon as you learn this, you have to start implementing immediately because you have a guaranteed contract. Waiting only causes you less growth later. You don't lose in the first few years of a life insurance policy. You lose in the last few years of this thing. It'll cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe millions, to wait an extra year or two to not implement this. So year 43, if I reduce this down to the minimum premiums, which is the base premium on this policy, $2,600, it'll grow $36,000 that year with a $2,600 injection, or grow $13 for every dollar I put into that thing. It's absolutely phenomenal. And those of you that have already owned whole life for a number of years or understand how this works and the compounding effect here, we all say the same thing. And everyone will tell you this that's owned whole life insurance longer than 10 years. I wish my premiums were bigger. I wish I put $80,000 into this policy. Heck, I wish I could put $800,000 into this policy if that's going to spit out next year $1.6 million, right? If I was doing 80,000, it'd be 163,000. But this was the first policy that I started where I was at that time. And at that time, I was thinking more like a saver, okay? So just to illustrate this point further, this is what we call the path of money. There's basically 4 things you can do when money flows into your life. You can spend it, you can donate it, the rest is called savings. So the third thing you can do is hold it, with the fourth thing being invest it. Now, life insurance exists in that green box. It's not an investment. It is a liquid, safe asset, possibly the safest asset you're ever going to own. And because the guarantees, it'll make your foundation for your wealth building portfolio so incredibly tough. And now that I own a number of different policies, and we have pretty substantial premiums at this point, here's what I have figured out that this policy and this savings habits that we've developed over the years have done for us. It has helped us with unpredictable income. You know, when I launched Factum, got into a commission-only role, running a business, you don't have a consistent paycheck anymore. And the fact that these policies grow every single month can definitely help you float through some unpredictable income times in your life. It helped us with excessive spending because paying premium, people look at this as a negative. Oh, what do I have to pay? Having a place where you kind of have a forced environment to save can be a wonderful blessing in your life. Sometimes structure and guardrails are extremely important to success. So you can look at that a couple different ways. Some people look at that as a negative. I look at it as a positive. I need to save into those policies. And now it's more of a I want to save into these policies because of how fast they're growing. Third thing is my reliance on traditional credit is almost gone at this point. I cannot wait to not participate in the broken lending system that commercial banks and financial institutions have just forced upon us. It's so insulting to have to do credit checks, amortization schedules from institutions that are a lot of times in a worse financial situation than us. And that would include like our US government. It's crazy. But this policy allows me the privacy and the flexibility to borrow and pay back on my terms. And once again, that's exactly why you want to couple it with our financial management education around tough money. The next thing is the lack of liquidity. It's one of the number one sources of why Americans feel financial pressure is because they don't carry enough cash reserve or liquidity in their life. And when you have a place that's as efficient as whole life insurance as your primary savings environment, holding more cash reserves becomes so easy because it is so efficient. And the last thing is, if retirement is on your radar, you can also liquidate these policies in the future or turn them into annuities. There's a lot of different options that you could pursue to turn your whole life insurance contracts into an additional passive income stream in the later stages of life. So those are some of the biggest 5 pain points that Americans feel around financial pressure: unpredictable income, excessive spending, reliance on credit, lack of liquidity, retirement uncertainty. Owning whole life insurance and putting the vast majority of my savings in those contracts has eliminated almost all of that noise and financial pressure from my life around those 5 areas. And I know it'll do the same for you as well. Now, when I first bought that first policy in 2015, 25 years old, I was buying life insurance really as a saver. I read the book. I liked what was in there. It made sense to me, so I wanted to get started. And I really started as just a saver. I need a more efficient place to store wealth. And very quickly, about 11 months into me owning my first policy, we bought our second policy on my wife, Diane. And we had used the first policy that year to pay off a small loan on a car we had financed. And then we took the same payments that we were making to the credit union, and we directed those payments back to our private banking system. Now, some of that interest went to One America, which I was glad to pay because they give me so much benefit to hold policies with them. And the additional that we were paying into our banking system went into additional PUA for that policy, which is the only way that your policies are going to grow is by paying premium. That means base premium or PUA premium. Refilling policy loans does not increase the efficiency of your whole life insurance contracts. So we moved quite quickly into the stage 2, what we call the wealth builder. And in this stage, you're really starting to get more intentional about how much of this flow of money are you controlling in your life. And then probably about 4 years into that, we really started expanding our business banking system, meaning I had multiple policies at that time. We were trying to redirect most, if not all, of our free cash flow into our life insurance contracts. And I started to look at my system of policies more as a separate business than just a singular policy I owned as part of my wealth building strategy. So at this time, whole life insurance and infinite banking is becoming a major, major part of my financial strategy. In fact, it encompasses the entire foundational piece of it. And probably about year 5, 6 is when I was truly entering what we call the stage 4, the infinite banker category. This is when I think you're really doing infinite banking. We had built a family banking business at that time. We had assured multi-generational legacy. We have wealth preservation solidified, and now starting to focus on some of these spiritual parts of this conversation around influence and significance. Starting to bring this to other families, including my own, bringing all of us closer together, working stronger and more interdependently as a family unit. And that's about time that we started our family banking business as well. And this has been one of the most compelling arguments for me to bring this to everyone I know around infinite banking, because it was such a spiritual conversation for our family as well. You see, once you understand the role of banker in your life and you're really starting to own more of that, you're going to start treating this like its own separate business. And when you incorporate it with your family, who are usually going to be part of our lifelong relationships in our life, is a lot of times it's family members. So these are people we keep in close proximity. And here's what typically goes on across middle America with the family unit. If you got young kiddos like I do, or in the early stages, they're very dependent on mom and dad for everything. And this is really a leadership conversation. And so as those kids get older, we move into what's called a independent state as a family. Everyone's kind of doing their own thing. So maybe your kids are 18 years old now. They're moving to the big Fuller family. They're going to go start the small Fuller family. And when they move away from mom and dad, this is a really proud moment in our society. Like, this should happen. And I'm going to hopefully be able to change your paradigm and get you to open up your mind to maybe a different option on how you can bring your family closer together and keep more money in the family while building stronger relationships at the same time. Because here's the reality. When our kids move out and they become independent, these big banks move in to capitalize on those relationships. And I'll tell you, big banks do not look at people as relationships. They look at people as dollar signs and cash flow sources. That's it. If I was incorrect at that, they would be the first ones to come support your business when you're low on cash flow. They'd be the first ones to come support your family if you're going through a hardship. I don't think they ever write or ever care. The moment you can't serve them, they will kick you to the curb. Prove me wrong on that one. So when our kids need something like vehicles, that's not a maybe, that's a when that event happens and our kids need vehicles. These banks are going to establish that relationship, and what we've essentially done is we've transferred the leadership that we could have had to a commercial bank, and those kids, on average, just like every American will send about $400,000 in principal and interest over 13 vehicles over their lifetime. That money just walks away from your family. And so we want to change this. And we know it's not just 400 grand. It's also what could 400 grand have earned you if you had it saved in a more efficient environment where you could earn guaranteed interest on it for life. And that is exactly what the book Becoming Your Own Banker talks about. The problem in life is you finance everything. You either pay up interest or you give up interest you could have earned. And the issue is all of these things are financed by someone else's banking organization, okay? So we want to flip the script on its head. And that's why infinite banking is such a paradigm shift for most people. So instead of transferring that leadership to a commercial bank and letting them basically teach our kids about finances in the future, full on knowing they do not care about the relationship, we want to move to what's called an interdependent family unit. And now what we're going to do is we're actually going to move closer together. Notice the circles are still there. We're still independent, but we're going to create a closed economy. And if you instill your leadership principles here, your vision, your value, and this is the major part of the infinite banking concept I rarely hear people talk about. A lot of times it gets reduced to just a financial strategy or an arbitrage play. And that is the most watered down, boring, ineffective way to articulate what infinite banking is. Infinite banking has so much to do about leadership, influence, significance, because you're literally transferring not just money and time and relationships, but vision and values and stewardship along with that as well. And if you do this properly, now your kids grow up knowing that mom and dad have a private banking source. And no one cares about their kids more than a parent. And so if we want the best for our kids, we also need to take on that role of the financial steward in our family as well. So now these kids have to go out and get vehicles. They don't go outside the family, they come into the family. And they say, Mom and Dad, this is where the relationship is. I need to finance a vehicle. I understand we have a private family banking system. I want to finance this with you so that you and Mom create cash flow so you can go travel and do the things that you want to do, full on knowing that when we pass away, which we have a 100% chance of passing away, those dollars will be replenished to the next generation. It is the greatest way to transfer wealth and values that I've ever come across. So now that $1.5 million per child, that interest cost is all staying in the family. So if you've got a family of 3 young kiddos, that's $4.5 million for just vehicles that you can keep on your side of the equation. Those kiddos get married, you double that. It goes to $9 million. And this is exactly why you have to couple the infinite banking concept with our tough money curriculum. Think of it as the workbook that you would need to make sure that you are tough financially so that you know you are implementing the infinite banking concept so effectively now and in the future. So make sure to keep following us here on Factum Financial. We're going to put out more videos if you like this one. This is just the start of many more videos to come on my journey so far into the infinite banking concept.